So if you want to be a consistent player, you have to release the golf club more like this and less like this here, because your release pattern is going to have the biggest influence on your control over the club face. And if you could control that club face, you're going to be very, very consistent. Okay, so why do we want to release the golf club like this over this? So the one that we want, that is more of what we call a passive release. So that's where the body rotation is more governing what the club is doing going through the golf ball. If our rate of rotation and our speed of our rotation remains constant going through the shot, we're going to naturally have those hands follow our rotation and they're going to exit left around us. So that's going to make this club face very, very stable. So if our club face is nice and square to the swing arc, we then have the ability to be able to rotate and have that club face become and stay very stable. We won't have too much volatility of our club face going through the shot. So if we can keep it square for longer to the arc via using good body turn, that's by nature more consistent, less timing orientated. And that's exactly why we don't want to release the club like this here. So this was the release that was absolutely taught. I was taught it back around 15 years ago or so. And that's a lot of hand movement going through the shot. And this is something where a lot of golfers are still very confused about it, whether they need to do this or not. And I'd very much argue you don't have to at all release the golf club like this anymore, because this type of release pattern was very much based on what used to be a square club face. So the club face being square, let's say in the takeaway here, used to be where the toe of the club was pointing dead up to the sky. That was perfectly square back in, let's say, the 90s, maybe a little bit early, and early 2000s also. So if that is square, and let's say coming down we have that toe still dead straight up to the sky at shaft parallel, yeah, we have to flip release and roll those hands over to be able to square that. Because if we did that more modern passive release, the club face is going to be massively, massively open. So we would need to have a mechanism of a flip release to square it. But again, how consistent is that generally going to be? Not so much, because then we're reliant on controlling this movement going through the shot and whether we're hitting a ball straight or not. So this is, we know, the fastest point of the golf swing going through impact. And if we have to rely on this, quickly get those hands flipping over at a point of the swing that we generally can't control because it's happening too fast, we're going to have some days where we're great, we can time it up, sure, but other days, not so much. You might experience times where you're playing, let's say, different shots to the next. Hit a great drive down the middle, and then you push or hook your next shot. Dare say have a good look at your release and see whether it's consistent enough. So having that more modern passive release is just by nature going to be more consistent. We see vast majority of all the top tour players do this with their golf swing, but you do not need to be a top tour player and have that skill level to be able to do that. I would argue the other way. You need an incredible amount of skill level to make this flip release work. A lot of the golfers on tour, back in the days this is taught, why they used to make that work so much is because they put in so many hours of practice. They put in an ungodly amount in thousands of golf balls every single day to be able to make this work. And I know all of you out there aren't putting in that amount of time, and nor should you. Your body would absolutely fall apart if you did it. You could practice a very minimal amount of time doing the drill I'm going to tell you, which is going to teach you a more passive release, and you're going to be playing much better golf with putting in less practice to try and maintain this release pattern. So okay, let's get into the drill we can do to get this more passive release. So this is a two-part drill. So we need something like this. It's an alignment stick. So I've got a swing plate here, which is really good. There's a link in the description to get this with a discount code as well. So that's all down below in the description. And what this is just essentially a long alignment stick. So why we use this part is because this blocks that over flippy release. This will train the pattern, the movement you need to do to be able to get those hands to exit left. Me just hitting, let's say I just swing in a normal shot underneath this, you're going to see, for me to miss that, hands have to exit more left, but my body's going to rotate more for me to be able to do that. I can't roll release it, I'll hit it with my hands. So this blocks the movement pattern, great. But like I said, there is a requirement, and there is requirements for this. You need to have a square club face. So you need, first and foremost, the most important thing, you need that club face to be square, because we need this club face square to the arc to be able to make this work. So if we have that club face square to the arc, then we can nicely rotate through. Club face is going to stay square. So here we go. This is the drill. We want to get the club face as square as we can, as early as we can. So what we do, we get to shaft parallel to the ground of the takeaway, and we make sure the club face is slightly angled down here. So you can see how the grooves are slightly pointing down. It's matching my spine angle. So that tells me the club face is perfectly tracing that arc. If I can stop there, make sure it's nice and square, and then I'm going to stop and I'm going to swing up and swing through, just swinging underneath this alignment stick. So extremely good way to getting good repetitions there. If you can do that, you will be having that more passive release when you look at it on camera afterwards. So make sure you are still looking at your swing on camera as you're hitting balls here. You've got to know whether you're doing it right or wrong. Feel isn't real with a golf swing. So we go again, sharp parallel to ground, club face is looking good. All right, swing up, swing through. There we go. So if we can go and rep that out, start smaller, like I was just showing there, and then build it up, you're going to be able to have this more passive release. Now, this is very much something where you need to be rotating very nicely for. Now, rotating is a very, very loaded topic. There's a lot to it. I do have a course all about rotation, how to get into your golf swing, the reasons why you're not, everything you need to know. Give you a coaching level of knowledge on rotation. There's also a link to that in the description if you want to pick that up also. So this is going to give you that ultra consistent move with the club face going through the shot, as we need three elements to play good golf: good club face control, good path control, good low point control. Club face is the one most people struggle with. Your path is always going to be fairly similar. If you're a decent golfer, your low point is going to be fairly good anyway. So this one is massive to be playing good golf. Tour players can do this and improve quite a lot. A lot of my professionals do this drill, and also a lot of high handicaps I teach do this drill, so they all benefit from it nicely. And will it slow your swing speed down? Something everyone always says, huge misconception is, okay, my speed is being created by this hand rotation. No, it's not. That's definitely a feeling. So whipping the hand through, yes, you can get a whip of that club going through the golf ball doing that. But if you learn to use your body properly via good turn, good extension going through the golf ball, that's a much bigger power producer. That's essentially why you don't see long drive professionals practicing their hard releases with their hands going through the shots, because it's not a great speed producer. It does produce some speed, but it's not as efficient as turning and extending nicely, which I've got plenty of videos on my channel about. If you're just trying to generate speed through your hand release, you are forever going to be an inconsistent golfer, because you think when you're trying to add power, you have to overly rotate that club face, but you're always going to hit the ball more offline. That's where the old saying, hitting the ball, longer but losing accuracy comes from. It's because of how players used to try to do it. You don't need to do it like that anymore. You don't need to be young and athletic to be able to do this either. Again, very big misconception. So if you like this video, click that like button. If you want more golf instruction just like this, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button too to be notified every time I put out a video. So learn that passive release and you'll be far more consistent.